In this video, we'll demonstrate a new feature of the list builder that allows you to easily convert a list that is based on static data into a list that is based on a SQL data source by exporting the data from the static list definition to a SQL table, and to also go in the opposite direction. In other words, to take a list that is based on a SQL data source and convert it into a list that's based on a static data source by exporting the data from the SQL table into a static data source. So you can see here we have a simple list control that is based on a static data source. So we just built this list by choosing static sample data over there. And so here's our list over there, and of course when we run it we see the static data over here. So now let's go back to the list builder over here, and in the builder here I'm going to go and choose this option here to convert the list data source to a SQL database. So I'll click on the smart field and the genie comes up. So we want to export the static data to a table in the Northwind database, and then we need to give it we can either bind to an existing table in that database, or we can create a new table. So I'll go here and call it simple data, and then I'm going to say that if there's a table that already exists called simple data, then I can either prompt before overriding it or just always override it. So I'm going to go ahead there and say override it, and then I'd like to export the data to the target table. So I'll go ahead there and now define the mapping. So this is the dialog that lets me specify the structure of the table that I'm going to be creating, and you can see here that we're going to be creating a table with fields called first name, last name, city and state. I can override the fields if I want. I can also override the field type if I want, and the field size. And you can see also that the SQL table that's going to be created is going to have a primary key called last name, because that was the return field, the return type of the static list. But I can also override that, and instead of using last name as the primary key, I can add an auto increment primary key. So here we can see now we've added a new field called underbar PK. So let's go ahead now and click the OK button, and then click OK now. And we can see now that the list has been converted to a SQL list based on a query that goes against a new table called simple data. So if we go ahead now to our SQL database here, we can see now this is a MySQL database. Let's go here and do a refresh. There's simple data, and you can see there's the data that was exported. So this is the static data that has now been exported to the SQL table, and our list is now based on this SQL data over here. So now let's go here and just make an edit. Let's go here and change this to say Fred and commit that data. Now we'll go back to our list over here. And if we run it, we can see now that basically the list says Fred. And now let's go in the opposite direction. So we'll click on list properties now. And this time we're going to go from a SQL data source to a static data source. So we'll go all the way to the bottom here, double click over there, and specify that we'd like to create a static data source, and we'll go here and then click OK. And then if we look at our data now, you can see there's the data that's been imported from the SQL database. It's now using a static data source, and if we go ahead now and go into working preview, we can see there we have our data. Now we don't have the primary key field because that wasn't added to the list layout, so let's just go there and add the primary key field in. Go ahead now and click OK, go over to working preview, and we can see now that we have the primary key field there as well. So in this example we've shown how you can easily convert a list from static data to SQL data and vice versa. Thanks very much for watching.